You know, I heard a quote one time from Vincent van Gogh that really rang true. He said, "He has dedicated his life to his art, and he has lost his mind in the process." When I sat and I thought about that, it sounded very familiar. I have given every single thing, every ounce of my life to this craft, to perfecting my craft, and I continue to do so.
You probably don't even notice it anymore. You wake up, reach for your phone, and the first thing you do is distract yourself. A few scrolls here, a few taps there. You call it a morning routine, but it's really an escape. From what? From you, from your life, from that voice in your head telling you something isn't right. You soften it with noise, with comfort, a warm bed, a dopamine-hit breakfast, a carefully filtered reality curated by strangers online, played out in front of you while your own reality quietly decays. The truth? You're not tired, you're uninspired, and worse, you're addicted. Not to drugs, not to danger, but to the most dangerous thing of all, comfort. Nobody talks about this addiction. And why would they? The world profits off your sedation, off your laziness being disguised as self-care, off your algorithmically programmed pattern of indulgence. It's easier to keep you scrolling, eating, napping, watching, waiting, than waking up. But inside you, buried deep, is something restless, something screaming for more, something that's been ignored so long. It no longer speaks to you with words. It groans in boredom. It aches in silence. And it burns. Every time you scroll past someone doing what you know you could do, should do, would do, if only you weren't so comfortable. Let's call it what it is. You chose the easy route because it was safe, predictable, low risk. Maybe you told yourself you'd go all in next week or after this project or when life slows down. But comfort doesn't work like that. Comfort is like wet cement. Feel good sitting in it. Great. Stay a little too long, it hardens and paralyzes you. Every moment of comfort you indulge in is a small betrayal, a subtle lie, a whispered agreement to stay average, to stall your evolution, to press snooze on becoming exactly who you were meant to become. And if you're being honest, you can feel it, that sense of wasted potential, that itch that won't go away, that feeling like you were meant for something real, something raw, something difficult but worthwhile. But then the noise returns and you sedate your greatness. Again, this isn't a motivational speech, it's a confrontation, it's a mirror. Because the life you want, the one you envy in others and hope the universe hands to you on some golden platter, it's on the other side of what you're avoiding. Let me guess, you're waiting for motivation, you're not ready. But motivation isn't coming. That's the big lie. There's no wave of motivation that's going to lift you out of this and carry you forward. There's no magical day on the calendar where comfort suddenly becomes boring and your actions become effortless. You're not tired, you're distracted. You're overstimulated and underfulfilled. You're swimming in comfort but drowning in potential. This is the setup, the trap. They told you life was about feeling good, being happy, staying safe. They never told you it would steal your hunger, that it would lower your standards, that it would take away your calluses, your fire, your fight. They told you growth was about self-love, but they forgot to mention that true self-love is doing the hard thing, especially when you don't feel like it. Do you feel that lump in your throat right now? That tightness in your gut? It's not guilt, it's recognition. You know this message is for you, because there was a time you burned. You were relentless. There were days when you chased progress with wild curiosity, with intentional discomfort. Back when your life tasted like struggle, but that struggle made it real. Now, everything is soft edges and slow mornings. Carefully measured risks, preferably no risks at all. You're not living, you're managing your energy. And that's the saddest thing about being addicted to comfort. It doesn't feel bad, it feels fine. But fine is the hell you settle into when greatness feels like too much work. You weren't born to be beige. You weren't wired for mediocrity. That fire inside you wasn't a phase. It was you, before comfort castrated your dreams and turned them into Pinterest boards and unplayed Spotify grind time playlists. You planned, you started, then you got tired. But you weren't tired, you were seduced by comfort. And now you're watching others live the life you dreamed of. And you know why? Because they did what you didn't. They got uncomfortable on purpose. There's no way around it. The best version of you doesn't exist in the comfort zone. The confident you sits outside it. The focused, disciplined version of you, the one who beats addiction, builds a business, creates freedom, unlocks peace. They're hiding on the other side of early mornings, cold showers, lonely nights, rejection, sweat, doubt, and massive resistance. So here it is, raw, undeniable, unfiltered. Your comfort is quietly killing you, and until you become obsessed with freedom, more than short-term pleasure, until you are willing to sit in friction long enough for focus and clarity to appear, until you wake up and realize that becoming your best self isn't motivational wallpaper, it's warfare. You will stay stuck in this prison with velvet walls and no locks. Comfort is the enemy, and it's winning. But that can change right now, not tomorrow, not when you get organized, not after this busy phase. You don't need another productivity tool. You don't need a coach, you need a moment. This moment, a switch, a decision, a spark of discomfort, chosen, owned, and used like a weapon. Don't wait for things to feel right. Act, and make them right by who you become. Because the truth is, and I want you to let this sink in, nobody is coming to save you. Not a job, not a relationship, not a motivational quote or a podcast or a book. This is the part of the story where you either wake up or you stay asleep. And either way, the clock keeps ticking. Excellent. Continuing now with Section 2, 1,000 words, of the script titled, You're Addicted to Comfort and It's Killing Your Potential. This section will deepen the emotional resonance, explore how comfort addiction gets ingrained, and continue contrast framing between the life you have versus the one you could have. You weren't always like this. There was a time when you were bold without knowing it, when discomfort was the default, not the enemy. Think back. When you were a kid, you didn't obsess over how to be brave. You simply stepped toward the unknown because curiosity overpowered fear. You tried, you failed, and you got up. You scraped your knees and didn't make it mean your identity was broken. You attempted, and that made you alive. Now, you don't attempt, you analyze. You replay scenarios before they happen. You plan discomfort out of your life with calculators and mood boards. You've built a fortress to protect your ego from risk, and all you got in return was a padded room where nothing grows. So, how did we get here? Let's be honest, the world trains you to crave comfort from the start. Temperature-controlled rooms, participation trophies. You tried your best, even when you didn't. Schools that reward compliance over resilience. Devices that give you the illusion of connection while pulling you deeper into detachment from yourself. See, the addiction to comfort isn't just about soft beds or food you didn't cook. It runs deeper. It's built into the system. And unless you deliberately fight against it, you will become it. You were taught to chase happiness at all costs, but nobody told you that happiness is a byproduct of exertion, not a souvenir from Netflix binges and likes on a post. You were taught that risk is dangerous, but nobody told you that not taking risks kills slowly, and so quietly you might not wake up until decades have passed. You were shown that pain is a signal to stop, but nobody told you that pain is also a compass, pointing to the part of you that's worth building. Comfort isn't bad in doses. It's not a sin to rest, but you have to earn it. Rest is sacred only when preceded by a battle. Otherwise, it becomes escape, and the truth is, most people aren't resting, they're running. You're not recharging, you're delaying, you're not finding clarity, you're hiding. And somewhere deep down, you know it. Let me ask, have you noticed how life gives the illusion of progress, even when you're not moving? How being busy masks the fact that nothing meaningful is changing. Your days are full, not fulfilled. Your schedule is packed, but your soul is starving. You scroll, you comment, you reply to emails, You show up to meetings, you drink your water, you hit 10,000 steps, and still lay in bed at night feeling vacant. Why? Because comfort creates movement with no direction, motion without forward momentum. And you've mistaken distraction for growth. You've learned how to look productive without producing. You talk about goals more than you chase them. You celebrate starting new things more than sticking with old ones. You mistake watching greatness for becoming great. But here's what no one told you. Every comfort carries a cost. And comfort, when overused, begins charging you interest on the parts of yourself that die while you rest.
That discipline you were building before you took a break, gone. That conviction you had before you doubted yourself into paralysis, fading. That idea you got excited about before you sunk back into safety, withering. Comfort steals dreams with a smile and a blanket. And the worst part is, it's so easy to rationalize. You tell yourself it's not the right season. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right time. You say, I'm overwhelmed, not realizing you created your own overwhelm by avoiding the uncomfortable steps that would fix everything. Life has a harsh timeline. You can't out-negotiate time. You either move now or it moves on without you. And if you don't choose your sacrifices intentionally, life will choose them for you. Comfort is always asking, how can I make this easier? But greatness whispers, how far are you willing to go? So let's compare. Comfort says, just 5 more minutes. Greatness says, do it now. Comfort says, that's too hard. Greatness says, that's exactly why I'm doing it. Comfort says, you deserve rest. Greatness says, let rest be the reward, not the routine. Comfort says, no one will notice. Greatness says, I'll know. Comfort says, play it safe. Greatness says, sink or soar. But fly you're here because something inside you still wants to soar. You wouldn't be watching, listening, reading this if part of you hadn't woken up from the dull hum of everyday sedation. And that part of you, that's the real you. Not the one who scrolls in silence, not the one who procrastinates with playlists and podcast episodes, not the one waiting for perfect timing or permission or applause, but the one who remembers what it felt like when you believed, remembers those moments at night when you saw yourself as someone powerful, someone focused, someone inspired, not crushed by life, but creative in the face of it. That version of you isn't gone. It's buried under comfort, but it's still breathing. And now, it wants out. Because despite every excuse, every delay, every self-sabotaging loop, you know you're capable of more. You feel it. And you've felt it your whole life. You've always known something was off. That your life looked fine on paper, but felt fake in your soul. You've always daydreamed of becoming someone more, someone clear, someone strong, but you kept killing that version of you with cheap comfort. And it's not your fault that you got here. The system is built this way, but it's your responsibility to get out. Responsibility. That's a scary word, right? Because if you accept it, you also accept that your past was beneath your best. You accept that your results reflect not lack of talent, but lazy decisions. You own that you have knowingly betrayed your potential in favor of soft resistance and instant relief. But that's good news, because if you're responsible for where you are, then you're also responsible for where you go next. That's the power no one can take from you, the choice to wake up or stay numb. So here's the truth. You won't change until you want the pain of change more than the pleasure of now, until it hurts more to stay the same than it hurts to grow, until you stop romanticizing balance and start living with obsession, at least for a little while. Obsessed with discipline, obsessed with legacy, obsessed with showing yourself who you really are when excuses fall silent. This isn't about burnout. It's about breaking out. Because crazy as it sounds, resistance is the real reward. It's in the struggle that you tap into focus. It's under pressure that vision is born. It's through discomfort that peace is accessed. Comfort never gave you clarity. It gave you clouds. Pain is not the enemy. Distraction is. The path out isn't easy, but it is simple. One decision, one uncomfortable act, one small betrayal of your addiction to ease today, and then another one tomorrow, and another, until discomfort feels like home and comfort starts to scare you, because now you know what it robs you of. Now you can feel how quiet, how subtle, how lethal comfort can be. Don't let it win. Great. We're building strong emotional momentum now. You have no idea how powerful you could be, not because you lack talent, not because you lack work ethic, but because you've never seen yourself without the filter of comfort. You've never met the version of you who is untouched by excuses, unbothered by weakness, unwilling to stay average. That version is waiting, not in some far-off future, not in a dream. He's behind one decision you haven't made yet. Let me redefine discipline for you. It's not punishment. It's not self-denial. It's the highest form of self-respect. It's the acknowledgement that your future deserves more than your urges do. You will never hate your life because you chose discipline, but you will always regret the day comfort made your decisions for you. That's the trap of it. Comfort lies to you in a calm voice. It tells you you're tired, but you're not. It tells you you've done enough, but you haven't. It whispers, you deserve this. But deep down, you know you haven't earned it, so you rest. But is it rest when it doesn't recharge you? Or is it just pause on your purpose? The truth is, you haven't felt rest in a long time because you haven't experienced progress in a long time. And without progress, rest is just a more decorated form of stagnation. But listen, this isn't about being hard every hour of the day. This is about being honest, about keeping your promises to yourself. That's what separates the fulfilled from the frustrated. Internal integrity. You want peace. You want confidence. It doesn't come from the meditation apps and time blocking. It comes from doing what you said you were going to do, especially when no one else is watching. It comes from aligning with the strongest version of you, not when it's easy, but in those exact moments, it would be easy not to. Think of the pain you carry, the disappointments, the missed shots, the haunting idea that you might have already peaked. None of those things undo your potential, but your inability to sit in the fire long enough to prove yourself wrong absolutely will. When did we become so afraid of discomfort? How did we stray so far that asking someone to commit to a goal for 90 days feels extreme? You've been living in a culture that celebrates half efforts, promotes instant results, and tells you that slow progress means something's wrong. So you stop at 20%. You bounce from plan to plan. You pick the fun options, label them alignment, and call it strategy. But alignment without effort is delusion. You think you're out of alignment, but you're just too lazy to follow through with something long enough to see results. You can't evolve if you quit every time it stops feeling good. Do you think legends are made in the 7-day streaks and well-lit moments of flow? Number. They're built in the shadows, where commitment still exists long after motivation has left the room, where boredom meets repetition meets obsession. They're not motivated, they're modified.
And that's the moment where most people fail, not because they can't go on, but because they expect to feel comfortable while changing. But now you know better. The only way you grow is to suffer with intention. Don't run from the friction, lean into it. Let discomfort be your new compass. When you walk towards what scares you, the early morning, the cold shower, the difficult decision, the workout, the conversation, the risk, you come back changed. You don't need success overnight. What you need is a reason not to go backward. Comfort is past you now. That version of you, the one who hesitated until conditions were perfect, didn't survive this shift. You buried them under action. And now you're becoming someone else. Not just someone who's disciplined, but someone who's rooted in meaning. Because without meaning, you will always sink back into comfort when adversity hits. But when you know your why is stronger than your weakness, that's when transformation becomes permanent. You have to reconnect to your reason. Why do this at all? Why choose discomfort? Because your future is watching. Some version of you is living out the result of what you decide over the next few weeks, months, and years. That version of you either expands or disappears based on what you tolerate in this season. That's what discipline really is. It's simply your love for your future expressed through action today. Even when no one sees it, even when it's boring, even when it hurts. You don't rise by accident, you rise because you've decided that staying the same is no longer negotiable. Cozy mediocrity is no longer romantic. You've lost your taste for distraction. You've stopped defending comfort as self-love. You've started to realize that the most violent act you can commit against your potential is neglect. And you want more. You want the calluses, you want the scars, you want the battle, you want to wake up knowing you're dangerous to your limitations. So no, this isn't about hustle culture. This isn't about sacrificing your health or your soul. This is about meeting yourself again, in the fire, unsoftened, expansive, flawed, but fully alive. Because that's the truth no one warned you about comfort. It dulls your senses, it numbs your soul, it buries beauty beneath boredom and passion beneath protocols. But discomfort wakes you up. It peels back the shield, it makes you listen. It brings you face to face with your doubts and says, now prove them wrong. And you can, you will, because now you know something most never figure out. You were never supposed to feel comfortable here. That seat you've been sitting in, it was temporary. Those habits you built, they were survival, not evolution. That mindset that protected you, it's outdated protection for a war that is over. Now it's time to go deeper, to abandon comfort the way a snake sheds dead skin, to see your attachment to ease as an obstacle, not a prize. To break up with who you've been, knowing that the only loss worth grieving is the life you never lived. From this moment on, you make a different kind of vow, not to grind endlessly, not to fake toughness, but to live like someone who is no longer available to be owned by comfort. You are a creator now, a force for change. You have fire in your bones again, not because you're fearless, but because you're finally fed up with waiting, fed up with excuses, fed up with watching your life shrink to match your comfort zone. From here on out, you walk through the fire willingly. No more delay, no more bargaining with your potential, no more disguising fear as logic. The next version of you, he lives on the edge of effort. He is forged in the pressure you've been avoiding, and he thinks you owe him a visit. Let me ask you something. What would happen if you went all in? Seriously, what part of your life would crack wide open if, for once, you decided to stop flirting with potential and committed fully to growth? No halfway, no dipping your toe in when it feels convenient, no starting strong only to collapse by week 2 and call it burnout. I'm talking about the version of you who says, I don't care how hard this feels. I've wasted too much time already. You already know the answer. Your relationships would deepen, not because of good luck, but because you'd stop operating out of fear and start operating out of presence. Your body would transform not out of shame, but out of respect. Your bank account, your focus, your legacy, all of it would elevate simply because you stop settling. Most people don't fail because of ignorance. They fail because they keep negotiating with temptations dressed as self-care. They spend another year being balanced while their goals collect dust. They try to find harmony while never building mastery. You want results? You want peace in your chest and fire in your belly? Then forget balance for a while. Find alignment through obsession. You won't find that in your comfort zone. Nothing truly sacred was built in a thermostat-regulated environment. Nothing legendary came from someone who only took action when it felt easy. Every book you admire, every physique you praise, every empire that inspires you, it was paid for with discomfort. Long hours, quiet doubt, private suffering, repeated choices behind closed doors when no one was clapping yet. That's your path now. Not because it's glamorous, but because it's yours. The path of intentional discomfort, not chaos, not burnout. Engineered resistance, the type that builds more than muscles or results, it builds a new identity. Because the truth is, you're not fighting the world. You're fighting the version of you who doesn't believe in himself yet. And that's okay, because every hero starts there. You can feel the battle, can't you? The numbness pulling one way, the fire pulling the other. You scroll, hoping for a piece of content to somehow shift everything. But content doesn't transform people. Commitment does. You already know what you need to do. You know what to stop feeding. You know the habits killing your momentum. You know the shortcuts you're taking, the times you lie to yourself and excuse it as being realistic. And you know what you're becoming if you continue this way. Average, another almost. A highlight reel of might have been. And deep down, that terrifies you more than discomfort ever could. So if you're going to be afraid of the right things. Be afraid of waking up 5-10 years from now in the exact same spot. Be afraid of building comfort into a lifestyle so unshakable that even rock bottom feels like too much effort. Be afraid of dying untested, of leaving this earth never knowing how powerful you could have become. Because if you're addicted to comfort, you are letting life end in slow motion. But you can flip the script. What if discomfort wasn't your enemy? What if it became your teacher? Instead of avoiding it, imagine welcoming it. Inviting it in like an old friend who tells the truth you don't want to hear, but need to. Discomfort will never lie to you. It will never affirm your excuses. It will never tolerate your mediocrity. It will never congratulate you for almost. It demands more. But here's the secret the world won't tell you. Discomfort is freedom in disguise. Because with every repetition of resistance, your jail cell expands, and eventually it breaks. With every sacrifice, you earn sovereignty, and you no longer need comfort. You outgrow it. You stop craving quiet lives and padded spaces, because you finally understand that peace is not the absence of struggle, it's the purpose within it. You stop envying people who made it, because now you become the person worth being envied. And that life? It's right there. It's within reach. Not some fairy tale, not a figment of fantasy. It's behind the days you don't want to train, but do. It's behind the urge to quit, but you press forward. It's behind the moment you want to scroll, but instead you act. Small hinges swing big doors, and your doors are rusted shut because you've spent too long waiting for change instead of building it. But you're different now. You're hungry, tired, not in body, but in soul. Tired of tolerating less. Tired of negotiating with comfort while your future stands outside, knocking. So answer the door. Don't wait for a better time. Don't wait to feel like it. That moment won't come. All that exists is now. This moment, this heart pounding in your chest, this fire back in your gut, this breath of clarity you haven't had in so long. Welcome back. This is what it feels like to live awake. And from this moment forward, every choice you're about to make creates proof. Proof that you're not the same. Proof that you're rewriting the story. Proof that comfort no longer holds your leash. You used to chase comfort. Now you turn your back on it like a soldier leaving his home because a greater mission has called him forward. This is your mission. Make today heavier with intention than yesterday was, with regret. Let failure become your oxygen. Let sweat become your manuscript. Let silence become your forge. You can't live here anymore. You know too much. And from now on, it's not about what you feel like doing. It's about who you've decided you are. Not in theory, but in action, in repetition, in hard, uncomfortable, glorious reality. Become that over and over again until comfort trembles at your name. Picture your life as it is right now. Zoom out. Strip away your justifications. Forget the story you tell people when they ask how things are going. Now ask yourself, is this it? Is this how it all plays out? You wake up in a familiar bed. You follow familiar routines. You speak the same excuses. You hope without pursuit. You exist, but you don't rise. You drift through days on autopilot, wondering why you feel disconnected, numb, distant from the person you promised yourself you'd become. And the worst part is, you can't even blame anyone. Because it wasn't one big moment that held you back, it was the decisions you refused to make when comfort whispered, "There's always tomorrow." But now, you're running out of tomorrows. This version of life you've accepted, it's not your prison, it's your pattern. You've been stuck in a loop. Get excited. Make a plan. Start strong. hit resistance, slow down, fall off, feel guilty, repeat. This loop is killing your confidence because every time you give in to comfort, something inside you takes note. It doesn't scream, it doesn't rage, it simply files the evidence. Proof that you are not who you say you are. And over time, the file gets heavy. Until one day, trying again doesn't feel worth it because you've already convinced yourself it's just going to end the same way. That's how most people die, long before their heart stops beating. But what if you break the loop? What if today is the start of something unreasonable? What if instead of dipping into discipline like a part-time hobby, you embodied it as your unchangeable identity? Let's get serious. There are people half as talented, half as intelligent, half as ready as you, living lives you're jealous of. Not because they had more, but because they took discomfort personally. They saw every obstacle as a door, not a wall. They stopped resisting pain and started worshiping it, not for the suffering, but for the evolution inside it. You want fulfillment, meaning, pride when your head hits the pillow? Then build a life that demands more from you. The comfort life is easy. You already know that script. It goes like this: do less, feel empty, try to feel better, repeat over and over until decades disappear and you wonder if you were ever even alive to begin with. That's not what you were born for. You were born to push the edges of your limits until they stretch, to scare yourself into growth, to show up when nobody claps, to bleed into something so deeply that when you finally arrive, you flood heaven with gratitude. And someone might ask you, was it worth it? And you'll say, I didn't do this because it was worth it. I did it because I would have rather died trying than lived sleeping. That's what elevates people from average to legend. They don't need guarantees. They don't need to wait until it feels aligned. They just need one reason stronger than their weakness. What's your reason? Because if you don't have one, comfort will always win. Comfort is stronger than your willpower if you've got no purpose. So plant your flag. Say it out loud. I will not die like this. Not addicted to comfort. Not silenced by convenience. Not numb behind safe routines and carefully constructed walls of effortlessness. Say it like you mean it. Say it until you believe it. Say it every day until your nervous system accepts that greatness is no longer optional. It's who you are now. You've suffered enough pretending you were fine. You've wasted enough time figuring it out. The answers you're searching for won't be found in another course, another quote, another scroll into the abyss. They live inside action, repetition, identity, pressure, practice, purpose, pain. They live in sweat, in 5 a.m. discipline, in 10 p.m. sacrifice, in the conversations you've been avoiding, in the leap you haven't taken, in the version of you that's still buried under years of softness and simulated success. You've tasted comfort, now it's time to devour discomfort. You want a glimpse of your future? Close your eyes and imagine both paths. Seriously, take a second. Picture them. Path 1, you keep playing small. You keep doing just enough. You keep letting comfort drive. And for a while, it feels fine. But slowly, you wither. You get older. Less energy, more responsibilities, less fire, more regret. And in the quiet moments, you hear the echo. I could have been more. Now, picture path 2. You lean in. You get uncomfortable on purpose. You train your mind to associate meaning with effort. You stop searching for results and instead, you become inevitable. Every morning becomes a ritual of self-respect. Every action aligns with your future self. Your confidence skyrockets because it's no longer conditional, it's rooted in evidence. And most importantly, your potential stops being a theory. It becomes your life. That's the story I want for you. Not because it's easy, but because there's no other story worth telling. Let them laugh while you rise in silence. Let them mock your obsession, then ask for your mentorship. Let them wander, you walk forward. Unshaken, uncomfortable, unapologetic, you don't owe this world anything except the fullest expression of who you are. And that expression isn't made with comfort. It's sculpted through endurance. It's refined through fire. So embrace the fire now. Let it mold you into the person you once thought was impossible to become. Because he isn't impossible. He's just on the other side of comfort. And now, let me tell you something most people never hear. You're allowed to outgrow your old self. You're allowed to change your standards because the ones you're living with aren't enough anymore. You're allowed to say, I've been soft. You're allowed to say, I've been hiding. You're even allowed to admit, I was addicted to comfort because I was scared to fail. That's not weakness. That's self-awareness. It's the start of rebirth. Do you know what takes real courage? Not pretending you've got it all together, but waking up one morning, looking in the mirror and saying, I refuse to carry this watered-down version of myself into one more week. That's how change begins. Painfully, slowly, honestly, by telling the truth. The deep, ugly, beautiful truth. Not out loud, not on social media for attention, but silently to yourself, with eyes that no longer want to lie. You'll never go further in life than your truth will allow. And the truth is, you've settled too often. You've softened too quickly. You've normalized average because it feels safer to be okay than to reach high and possibly fall. But falling isn't the enemy. Staying still is. At least when you fall, you learn. At least when you fall, you've moved. But comfort is death by stillness. And the worst part? You don't even realize it's killing you until years pass and something inside you is permanently numb. The good news? It hasn't gotten that far. Not yet. Not if you're still here, still listening, still wondering what life could look like if every excuse got burned to ash. So, let's burn a few right now. I'm not motivated. Neither are the top 1%. They're built. And the only reason you label yourself unmotivated is because you've let comfort rewire your reward system. You've trained your brain to crave ease instead of effort. But the brain is moldable. Rewire it. Start today. Small friction becomes big confidence. Action begets motivation, not the other way around. I don't know where to start. Start facing pain. Pick the thing you've been avoiding most and go straight at it. There's your first brick. Lay it down and build from it. I'm scared. Good. So is everyone. You think fear's proof you should stop? Number. Fear's the receipt that you're shopping in the right aisle, the one where your future is stocked. Walk toward it, not past it, and never back down from it. Excuses rot inside unchallenged lives. Kill them with action, because the minute you prove to yourself that you're capable of overriding your default comfort response, something opens up. A gateway, a shift in posture, in energy, in psychological programming. Suddenly, you're not trying to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You're not playing with goals, you fused with purpose. You're not trying to change your life, you're in the act of becoming different. And the old you, he starts fading. Bit by bit, with every uncomfortable step forward, you bury him. The version of you who made promises and didn't keep them. The one who started routines and abandoned them. The one who tried to gather all the motivation but forgot to master execution. That version doesn't belong in your future. Mourning him? Let that happen if you need. But eventually, say goodbye. And say it proudly. Because the death of comfort-addicted you is the birth of who you've always been beneath the layers of delay. Let the new you emerge, rugged, clear, relentless. Not because you've reached perfection, but because now you reject cowardice. And that is enough to shift it all. It's not about becoming supernatural. It's about becoming complete again. Connected to fire, awake to truth, rooted in discomfort, but elevated by discipline. Let the world keep chasing easy. Let them keep crafting lives of aesthetic distraction. You know better now, because when this chapter of your life ends, and it will end, you won't be remembered for how comfortable you were.
Let's be brutally real for a moment. You don't get your time back. Not the hours you spent scrolling, not the days you spent waiting for the right mood, not the quiet months where you gave just enough to look productive, but never enough to actually change. It's gone now. And if that stings, good, let it sting. Because that sting you're feeling, it's the pulse of your potential waking up after being ignored for too long. It's not guilt, it's truth. And here's another truth. Your potential has a shelf life. No one ever told you that, did they? They said, you can always start tomorrow. They said, you have time. But you don't. Not really. People don't just run out of years, they run out of energy. They run out of faith in themselves. And one day they look in the mirror and barely recognize the untested, unshaped person staring back at them. You can't let that be you, because deep inside, you know you've got something the world hasn't seen yet. Not just a talent, a capacity to rise, to influence, to shape something real. But instead, for too long, you've let comfort consume that capacity, water it down, hide it beneath prioritizing things that make sense. And what has playing it safe ever really given you? Has it made your mind sharper? Has it elevated your spirit? Has it built discipline? Has it made your eyes shine? Probably not. And yet, that's what you kept choosing. Out of fear, out of habit, out of not wanting to seem ridiculous. But here's the truth. Being complacent doesn't make you safe. It makes you invisible. And no one was born to live unseen. Not by the world, but by themselves. That ends now. From this moment forward, you walk differently. You talk differently. You carry something more serious. A conviction. The conviction that your days mean something. That they carry weight. That you no longer treat your time like it's infinite. You move with purpose. Because you've seen what comfort costs, and you're done letting it rob you. Let the world cheer temporary wins. The perfect body photos, the hard work equals instant rewards. Highlight reels. Let them celebrate 3-day habits and 30-second dopamine bursts. You're building legacy, not popularity. Power, not vibes. Victory. Your ancestors didn't survive centuries of struggle, war, oppression, heartbreak, sacrifice, for you to fumble the opportunity because it was hard to stay consistent. When you choose soft over strong, easy over earned, distractions over destiny, you're not just robbing your future, you're betraying your bloodline. Sounds dramatic? Good, because growth is dramatic. Pressure is intense. Progress isn't casual. It's violent, raw, unfiltered, even spiritual. You're not building habits. You're building resurrection. Your spirit is coming back, and comfort can no longer survive in the same space where spirit exists. So burn the comfort, starve it. Replace every old excuse with new evidence. You are focused now, not when it's convenient. Always. You're consistent now, not on Mondays. Daily. You're all in now, not when others believe in you, even when they don't. Especially when they don't. Let this hit you. You may be the first person in your family to fully break free. Do you understand how powerful that is? You could be the first to choose pain on purpose, the first to shatter the addiction to comfort, the first to embrace labor as love, the first to reach your highest self intentionally, not accidentally, not circumstantially, not maybe, but by design. That's rare, and rare things are never created in ordinary routines. You want a different life? Then it starts with different pain. Because yes, pain is part of this. Discomfort is essential. But unlike comfort, this pain produces. It doesn't delay. It doesn't distract. It builds. It pushes. It forces you to see the parts of yourself you didn't know were still alive. Stronger than you expected. Hungrier than you admitted. And most of all, ready. Ready to stop performing for approval. Ready to stop chasing validation. Ready to live a life that echoes when you're gone. Because comfort doesn't echo. It dies the moment attention moves on. But strength, obsession, consistency, those ripple through generations. You want to be that ripple? Then pick a discomfort today and own it. Wake up earlier, turn off distractions, start the thing you fear the most. Move your body even when it aches. Write the chapter, make the call, take the risk, sweat, sacrifice, sit in the silence without reaching for your phone. Whatever you've been avoiding, start doing that every single day until it stops being frightening and starts being fuel. Because at some point you'll look back, and this part, the hard part, will be your favorite part. Because it's where the shift happened. It's where the identity died and the legacy emerged. This isn't a motivational clip anymore. This is your sermon, your line in the soil. The moment you heard your old name and said, enough. What comes next? Discomfort, difficulty, resistance, but also power, peace, presence, real, world-altering, blood-pumping clarity. You'll never see comfort the same again. Not once you've seen what discomfort reveals. And trust me, you're just getting started. Let's flash forward, not years from now, just a few months ahead, or even weeks. You've stuck with the hard things. You've chosen discomfort enough times that it doesn't feel foreign anymore. It feels like a signal, a code, a map. You've stopped relying on morning motivation. You've stopped needing the perfect playlist or Instagram-worthy routines, because now the identity made the behavior automatic. You don't force yourself to show up. You expect it from yourself. It's not a debate anymore. It's who you are. And in that realization, comfort becomes irrelevant. Sure, you still feel the urges, the whispers to take it easy, skip just this once, let yourself off the hook. But now you smile when they show up, because they remind you of the price you're no longer willing to pay. A small life that felt really good, but led nowhere. That's what comfort addiction was doing to you, subtly building a beautiful cage. It gave you enough pleasure to stay obedient, enough padding to keep you numb, enough excuses to feel justified but never satisfied. You've tasted ease, but now you crave meaning. And here's what no one tells you on day one of becoming great. You don't change your life by fixing your schedule. You change your life by changing your standard. Comfort was your old standard. You measured your day by how painless it was, how drama-free, how safe. But now, you're measuring by a different ruler, by what you conquered, what you resisted, what you created, even when it would have been easier to disappear. You're no longer impressed by convenience. You're not chasing productivity hacks. You're on a mission now. You're leading your own battle. And with every win over your inner addict, the one who still craves the soft path, you begin to build something deeper than results. You build dignity. You start to look at yourself and nod, because the version of you staring back no longer hides, no longer underperforms, no longer lives in shadows lit by good intentions but dimmed by low execution. Slay your excuses. That's your morning routine now. Slay them with every deliberate act of resistance. When you clean up your space instead of avoiding it. When you lift even though you're tired. When you plan meals instead of ordering dopamine delivery. When you look at the most terrifying task on your list and say, "This is how I eat today." Because that's the most raw truth about success. Discomfort is the currency. You don't pay for greatness with dreams. You pay for it with deliberate discomfort. Over and over, at interest. You want to give your family something more than platitudes and old regrets? Then be the one to model what it means to live on purpose, not ambitiously, not aggressively, just fully. Be the one who does the uncomfortable thing first, so those watching you grow up, grow with you, instead of wondering what it could have looked like if you had kept going, because someone is always watching you. Maybe it's your younger sibling, maybe your kid, maybe your future partner, or maybe it's the future version of you, still hoping you'll give them something to stand on. You don't need a massive name to have a massive impact. You just have to refuse to stay asleep, and nothing wakes us up quite like discomfort with direction. You don't suffer for nothing now. You suffer well, you suffer wisely. You suffer with your fists clenched and your eyes forward because every single ounce of pressure is building foundation beneath you. Keep building. Show up dirty, show up late, show up imperfect, but show up anyway. That's what people never tell you. Consistency isn't pretty. It's boring. It's messy. It's painfully invisible at first. But if you can stand being unseen long enough, you will become unstoppable. And most people, most especially those who live and die inside their comfort zone, never experience that power. They have opinions, but they don't have strength, because opinion without effort is noise. You don't need noise anymore. You need impact. Your life now becomes a tool to lift, to lead, to live loudly by doing hard things silently, and maybe one day, someone will ask how you did it, how you went from scattered and soft to carved and unshakable, and you'll smile.
Because they're expecting you to say morning routines, or coaching, or books, or luck, but you'll look them in the eye and say, I outgrew my addiction to comfort, and I never looked back. Because the new you doesn't run toward what feels good, they run toward what matters. And in that chase, they trade convenience for character. They trade warm beds for earned rest. They trade applause for progress. And somewhere along that road, they become a storm. Unstoppable, present, complete, alive. If you keep walking this path, that storm will be you. Perfect. We'll use section 10. Now ask yourself, if you've come this far, still listening, still reading, still showing up, isn't it obvious by now? You were never lazy, you were just in the wrong environment, surrounded by shortcuts, fed watered down truths, addicted to digital comforts that pretend to be nourishment, but always leave you more empty than before. For the first time in a long time, you didn't escape. You didn't pause this. You didn't scroll past. You stayed. You faced it. You sat with the fire. You swallowed hard. You said, this one's for me. And it was. That friction you feel, that sting, that new hunger that started burning somewhere in your chest about halfway through, that's not pain. That's alignment. That's your higher self remembering its mission. And now that you've met this version of you, the one with clarity behind his eyes and a storm in his voice, let me offer you a challenge. Don't disappear after this. Don't let this energy drown the way it always has. Just another video, another message, another great moment with no momentum. Because we've built something bigger than a motivational experience here. This is a movement, and there are more of us. People sick of the noise, people ready to lead, people prepared to scream back at comfort and say, not anymore. You don't run me. I run this. If that's you, then stay with us. Subscribe to this channel, not just to watch, to become. This isn't about likes or algorithms or feeding your ego. This is about reminders when life tries to numb you again. This is about clarity when comfort comes whispering like it always does. This is about training your mind to override weakness with will. Because guess what? Life doesn't drop breakthrough moments into your lap. Breakthrough comes from those who show up again and again, especially after the hype fades. Breakthrough comes when you align with a tribe that's done hiding. And that's what we are here, a tribe, ruthless with truth, radical about discipline, forged by pressure, and committed to becoming undeniable. You belong here, and you've known it for some time. This is the space where motivation is just the spark, and transformation becomes the commitment. Here, we don't sell you success. We teach you to bleed for it. We refuse to pat your back while you coast. We look you dead in the eye and say, you're slipping again. Pick up the pace. Because deep inside, that's what you've craved. Not comfort, not coddling, but call-outs. To be called up, to higher, to bigger, to stronger. We're not done with you. You're just getting started. So hit that subscribe button. Not because we need another follower, but because you do. You need to follow the version of yourself that won't tolerate another day of mediocrity. You need to follow the action, not just the thought. You need to follow the discipline, not the dopamine. You need to follow the fire, not the feelings. Subscribing isn't a button click. It's your contract with discomfort. You join us, and we promise you this. We'll challenge you. We'll wake you up. We'll remind you of who you are when the world tries to water you down. We will not let you sleepwalk through your life anymore. So if you're tired of soft talk, tired of success being aesthetic, tired of watching versions of yourself die in the hands of comfort, then subscribe now, commit, double down. Don't just be inspired, be involved. Let this be the start of the real story, the one you tell years from now, about the day everything changed, about the day you stopped asking for motivation and started acting on a mission. Your future, it doesn't need comfort. It needs conviction. Let's go get it together. We've got more fire to pour into you. Step into it. Don't miss it. Tap subscribe and don't come quietly. Come ready to burn the comfort down. The war has only just begun. Now imagine this. You wake up tomorrow with a new kind of clarity. Not the kind that comes and goes with a caffeine spike or a motivational clip. No, the kind that sits in your bones. Everything looks the same. Same bed, same walls, same challenges on your to-do list. But you are different. You move slower, but not from laziness, from purpose. You breathe deeper because rushing isn't necessary when you own the day. You stop needing the right mood to take the right action, because now the action creates the mood. Purpose first, emotion second. That's who discomfort has made you. Someone rooted, honest, resilient, untouchable by trends or doubt or noise. But this version of you doesn't just appear overnight. He only shows up when the old you dies, the soft one, the noisy one, the maybe later one, the one who said, "Let me rest just a little longer," and woke up 10 years older, wondering what happened. That version dies today, and there's a quiet funeral. No guests, just you, standing over the past, finally letting go. The excuses, the distractions, the guilt and self-doubt dressed up as logic, the fear, the entitled mindset that said, "If it's meant to be, it'll come to me." That doesn't live here anymore. Now, your life is active. It's deliberate. It's hard, but it's yours again. Every scar, every early morning, every skipped comfort, every social event you turn down to build in silence, all of it is working. You may not see it all yet, but in the invisible realm, you're becoming undeniable. And one day, the people who overlooked you will wonder how you did it. The people who doubted you will study your life like scripture. The people who stayed behind will wish they hadn't laughed when you said, "I just need time and discomfort." What killed your potential before was never a lack of talent. It was access. Comfort had access to every part of you, your thoughts, your self-image, your discipline. It took the wheel and you let it, but not anymore. You've cut the cord. You've taken the keys back. You've remembered what's always been true, but hard to face. You don't need more comfort. You need more commitment. You need to feel discomfort again on purpose, and not just once, daily. That's how you remember you're alive. That's how you rewire your soul to earn satisfaction again, instead of craving it endlessly without ever producing it. You want happiness? Create progress. You want peace? Start keeping your word. You want strength? Run toward what hurts until it doesn't anymore. Become dangerous to your doubts. Become allergic to excuses. Become fluent in the language of consistency, even when it's boring, even when no one cares, even when it's hard, even especially then. Because when it's hardest, that's when you separate from your past, from your surroundings, from everyone who never had the guts to keep pushing when it got lonely. Let their comfort be your motivation. Let every nap you skipped, every party you walked away from, every easy way out you refused, let those be bricks in the foundation of your future. You are no longer scared of pressure. You were born for pressure. It reminds you that you're still in the fight. You never needed to be the smartest, or the most gifted. You just needed to endure longer, to outwork average, to make yourself impossible to ignore by becoming impossible to break. And that's who you are now. A force no longer asking for permission. A story no longer pausing when life gets uncomfortable. A warrior built not from ease, but from resistance. Comfort once owned you. But now you've remembered you are the author. In this next chapter, it's personal, it's powerful, and it starts right now. No retreat, no relapse, no someday, just a risen version of you, burning brighter than ever because you stood in the fire and didn't back down. Now go, make the world feel your presence.